like paints and stuff I use. I absolutely love my mat. We can all admire my mat. I cleaned it today. It's so beautiful. Okay, so I make it 11 o'clock. So hello to those of you who have joined us. In today's seminar, we are going to be making a really simple head collar. So this is a good basic starting point if you've never made tack before. I'm going to give you an example of the sort of thing we're going to make. We're going to make something a little bit like this. So this is a very simple head collar. It's made of purple leather. As you can see, this one is actually sewn. So if you don't have access to glue or don't want to use glue, you can actually sew tack. I don't think it looks as neat, but some people are just completely into sewing and don't like gluing at all. We're going to use jump rings, not halter slots today, but generally this is hopefully what you are all going to create at the end of it. So I'll put that back over there. So first things first, let's talk through the supplies and tools that we're going to be using today. The first and most simple thing is we're going to need a good pair of scissors. Make sure they're really, really sharp. I keep these scissors exclusively for cutting leather lace and ribbon. They're never used on anything that will blunt them like paper. As you can see, they actually have a threat on them to stop people from using them. So these are my special tack making scissors. If you have got hardware that you're going to be using, you're probably going to need a pair of little jewellery making pliers like these, and that will help you cut that hardware off because it will come in like a little set. You will need a pair of needle nose pliers like these. Most jump rings you can actually use your hands, so if you don't have these, don't worry too much. If you are working with leather lace, we're going to scythe that leather lace. So you're going to need some form of sharp blade. I personally, at the moment, am using what is essentially a medical scalpel. These really cheaply from medical supply stores, and you can get non-sterile blades for them that literally come like this, and you can buy packs of 100 for hardly any money whatsoever. So these are a really cost-effective option. They're not as easy to use as your craft blade. So you may have something like this, which is an X-Acto knife. I find the blades for this really increasingly difficult to get hold of and increasingly pricey, which is why I started using this. It takes a bit of getting used to using a medical scalpel because it's flat, not round. But once you do get used to it, it's a more cost-effective option. You may also want something to hold your tack in place, particularly if you're using a glue that takes quite a long time to dry. So one of the best things is a pair of medical forceps, the straight ones, not the curved ones. So I'm sorry, this is going to unfocus. There we go. Medical forceps, again, you can get them from the same place as medical scalpels. And they're really, really good. You can get them from any medical supply store or eBay or Amazon. Alternatively, you can just use a bulldog clip, like this little one here. If you are using any form of glue, I really recommend having a few cocktail sticks to hand. Which brings us onto the glue. Now, what glue you use really is a matter of preference. So I've got 3 different options here. So this is my favourite glue at the moment, and this is a specialist leather glue that's stuck to the pot. I got this off eBay, and I love this glue. The only issue with it is it dries out really, really quickly, so you need to be tack making all the time to make this worthwhile. Another good option is super glue. The Uhu, I don't actually know how you say that. Super glue is really good. Fabric glue will also work. If you're working with ribbon, fabric glue I usually find is a better option. Obviously, I'm going to be working with leather today, so I'm going to be using my beloved leather glue that dries really, really quickly. A quick drying glue is usually best for something like this because it allows you to get it done a lot quicker and it allows you to hold things in place with your hands. So in terms of the stuff we're going to need to actually make the halter, we've got 2 options. We can either use leather lace, which comes like this, or in a spool, or we can use ribbon. Now, ribbon is the more cost-effective option. A spool like this won't cost you very much at all. You can buy it from any craft supply store. If you're making traditional scale tack, you'll want 3mm ribbon, which is, you can see the width there against my fingernail. This works really, really well. But I don't like working with ribbon. I like things to be leather. So we're going to be using a 1/8 inch or 3mm leather lace today. I'm going to be using natural leather lace, and the reason I'm going to be using natural leather lace is simply because it shows up much better against my board. And because this isn't massively zoomed in, that should hopefully help you to see what I'm doing. But you can get the leather lace in all kinds of cool colours. We're going to need a buckle for our halter. We're going to be using, because we're using 3mm, which is 1/8 of an inch, leather lace or ribbon, we're going to need a 1/8 of an inch buckle. Now, buckles come in all different shapes and sizes, and you can get them from several specialist model horse supply stores. All of these in here are Rio Rondo ones. So you can see here, if I get a full sheet, your standard etched buckle comes like this. They come in sheets of 30 and they're all joined together. They've just got a centre bar. They don't have anything sort of fancy. There's no buckle tongues or anything like that. These are what I refer to as slip buckles. I find these a lot easier to use on my model horse tack. They obviously don't look as realistic as ones with the centre bar, like this little fancy one here. But for things like head collars and halters, they actually work really, really well, and they're easy to use and take on and off. So we're going to need one buckle. We are going to mainly be using jump rings, but you may want to use a proper halter slot ring. So again, you can get these from specialist model horse supply stores like Rio Rondo, and they also come etched on little sheets. So you can see here, these come and they have the 3 little slots, and they will sit like this on your horse. And these obviously give you a lot more of a realistic finish. You can even get ones, and I use those for my showmanship halters that are one of my favourite things to make. So these are a really nice option if you want to look a bit more professional. We're going to use jump rings today, but if you did want to use these, your noseband would attach up here, your cheek pieces here, and the bottom of your noseband down here. So this curved bit will face the front of your horse, and it will sit like this. So if you are using one like this, that's how you position it. You can also get 2 slot ones, and I don't think I've got any 2 slots because I don't like 2 slots. But they attach, oh, there are some down there. They attach in a similar way. So if you look, you can see the noseband attaches up here, cheek pieces here, and the bottom of your noseband will attach down the bottom here. So they're very similar, they've just got 2 slots, not 3. Okay, so the main thing we're going to need in terms of supplies is going to be jump rings. Today we're going to be using 2 sizes. We're going to be using 6mm and we're going to be using 5mm. Now you can buy jump rings pretty much anywhere. If you go on eBay, you can buy packs of like 1,000 of them. I really recommend, if you are buying lots of jump rings, getting one of these. It's a little pill container. And as you can see, I have just used a Sharpie to mark the different sizes on, and then I keep them all organised. I have like bigger bags of them that I can then top up my jump rings with that are all labelled with the size. But this is a really convenient way of having them so that you can work with them, and we're all about convenience. So throughout the tutorial, I'm not going to give you direct measurements or sizes because I want to encourage you to make it for your own horse. But if you look on the tutorial on our website, that does have actual sizes. But what I'm going to show you today is how you fit it to your horse, because I think sometimes a lot of tutorials, they just give you measurements and they don't really explain how we'd fit it. Okay, so if you are all ready, we're going to need a model horse as a sort of victim. I will point out that this is a architect's ruler. These are 1 centimetre. So I will lay the pieces down so you can sort of see the vague length. I really recommend, if you do tack making, having a model horse that you use as your victim for your tack making. And that's what this lovely lady vase is, a beautiful victim. So I'm just going to try and move the camera a little bit up so we can see what we're doing. Doesn't want to do that. We're going to start with the noseband. So to measure our noseband, we get our victim, and then we need to make tabs. So what I do is I fold like this, just as I would if I was attaching it on here, and I just hold it. Now the points I'm holding it on are just by this cheekbone here, all the way around to this cheekbone here. So I then fold it again, mark with my nail, and then I can cut that piece of ribbon or leather lace off. And that's going to be our noseband. So if we lay it against our mat here, we can see that I've used just over 5 centimetres of leather lace. Now, if you're using ribbon, you won't need to do this step, but if you're using leather lace, you will, and that is to skive your leather. So as you can see, leather lace is really thick. We don't want it to be thick all the way out because that's not going to look flat and neat against our model. So we need to skive it. Rough side, can you see here we've got shiny side, rough side. Take our rough side and hold it flat against your desk. Now you hold your blade, this is really hard to do from the angle I'm at. Hold your blade so that it's horizontal and then just apply a little bit of pressure, and all we're going to do is just slowly slice some of that leather off, and then I normally just trim the end. It's as simple as that. I do have a more detailed skiving video on my YouTube channel if you want to try it. So you're left with like a little offcut, get rid of your offcut. And we're going to do that on both sides of our leather lace, and that will mean we have a nice smooth join. Okay, so we have a noseband. What we need now is some 6mm jump rings. Obviously if you're using halter slots, you'd use those. So jump ring, there you go, 6mm, you can see it fits inside the centimetre there. We're going to need some glue, so I've got my trusty leather glue here. Look at it, it's so beautiful. So I'm going to open that up, expose myself to the fumes. I'm going to need a cocktail stick to get that glue out. So I'm going to get my noseband. I'm going to find the join on my jump ring. So you can see there where there's a little join, because I want to cover that up. That doesn't look neat. And I'm just going to pop it over, fold that little tab, and then I'm going to get my glue. Glue. I'm going to get a bit of glue on my cocktail stick. I'm going to pop it on here. This is quite stringy, this glue at the moment. And then I'm just going to hold it. So I always hold it really, really tight in place. And because my glue is really quick drying, I'm normally done. But if you're not using quick drying glue, you can put something on there to hold it. So a clamp would work. If you're using one of these clamps on the leather, it does obviously make an imprint on the leather. So you may not want to use that sort of type of clamp, because if you look really, really carefully, you can see where it's actually made a dent. Really good for tooling, but not so good if you want it to look nice. So we should have something that looks vaguely like this. We're just going to do exactly the same thing. On the other side, we'll take a 6mm jump ring. We'll thread it through. But we wanted to make sure it fits our horse. So bring our horse over, hold the first one in place, and just check that it's sitting where you want it to sit. Okay, we're all ready, we're all happy. We are confident that that works, so we're going to glue it down. I'm just going to move the glue a bit closer. This is knackering my back sticking at this angle and tack making. And then we're just going to pop a little bit of glue on. Pop that there so it doesn't get all over my mat. And then again, I just hold it in place. I probably should add some form of warning here that you shouldn't hold glue in place with your fingers. If you're using super glue, don't do this, because your fingers will stick together. Leather glue doesn't stick fingers very well, so you're okay. The same with fabric glue. Now, if like me, you've got a little bit pointing out, take your really sharp scissors and just trim that off so it looks neat. Trimmy, trimmy. Beautiful. So we have it, a noseband. So what we'll do now is we will make our cheek pieces. So we're going to measure our cheek pieces in exactly the same fashion. We're going to get our model horse and we are going to do on the side. So we're going to lie her down like this. And the noseband should be going just around here. So if you think in a real horse, you'd have 2 fingers between this bone here and where your noseband sits. So that's where you really want it to be. And then your buckle is going to be about here on your horse. If you're not really sure, then obviously just look at pictures online. Most tack selling websites will have the tack fitted correctly because they want it to look nice. They may have stuff missing for more complicated tack, but generally speaking, that's enough. So we've got our first cheek piece. If we put it here, we can see that it's nearly 5 centimetres, so 5 centimetres would be a good measurement. And because horses are the same on both sides of their face, or they should be, if they're not, then something weird's gone on with the sculpting, we can just use that one as a guide. and cut our second one. So I'm just going to have a sip of my tea. There we go. Got to have a sip of tea. We're going to do some skiving again now. So again, just hold it down your mat, hold it flat, and just push your blade along. Now, some people just can't do this. I know that some people really, really struggle, and you try and explain it and explain it, explain it. It is a skill being able to do this, and it just takes practice. The key is to make sure you do it on your rough side, and the key is to make sure your blade is sharp. Just to demonstrate how useless it would be to use a blunt blade, I'm going to use this blade, which is completely blunt. And can you see, I actually can barely cut the leather with this, and that's because it's blunt. I put this particular scalpel blade on not too long ago. I think I put it on last week. So it's actually still really, really sharp. That's the good thing about using the medical supplies. You can buy these huge boxes. This is my entire box of non-sterile blades. I think there's over 100. I think there was 100 in there. So you can change your blades around loads, and it doesn't really matter too much. Just make sure you dispose of them really safely. And obviously, if you do have kids in your house or anyone who you don't really want to have a blade, keep those locked away. Right, so we're going to do our cheek piece. So this is our noseband and cheek piece, and we're just going to fold it over like that. And that is going to be our cheek piece. So we'll just glue that down. I normally take the brushy bit off because it makes life a bit easier, but I haven't done because this is new glue. And then I'm just going to hold that in place. Again, use a clamp if you're using super glue, so you don't stick your fingers together, because it's really, really stupid to stick your fingers together. And now you've got a noseband, ta-da, and a cheek piece. So we just get the other cheek piece and we do exactly the same thing. My eyesight's so bad I can barely see which side is the leather. Of the leather is which from where I'm sat, so if I keep bringing it closer to my face, I'm really sorry. I just have really bad eyes. And it's also not as light in here as I'd like it to be, but when I turned the lamp on, it wasn't actually any more help. I need a proper light in here. Okay, so we're going to glue that down. And look at this, it's so beautiful. So this is the basis of our head collar complete. We've got a noseband and we've got 2 cheek pieces. But what do we need on the other end of cheek pieces? We need more jump rings. So let's hold it against our model horse and check for fit. Okay, yeah, no, I want to be making sure I'm folding that probably about there. Okay, so we're going to just take 2 more 6mm jump rings and we're going to be attaching them on the end of our cheek pieces. So if we get our 6mm jump ring and we attach it like so, again, check for fit, always important to check for fit. So I'm just holding it against my model. Bring her over here. It's quite hard to do this with, so that's probably actually a little bit on the long side, so I might just shorten that down. There we go. And now I think this tab is too big, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim my tab. It's always better to have too much leather lace than too little, because you can always trim it down. If your tabs are too long, your tabs are too long. You can just cut them. If they're too short, then you need to completely redo it, which is a pain and a waste of quite expensive kangaroo leather lace. So there we go. Hold it up there. Another lovely 6mm on that end. So now we just need to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So we get our 6mm jump ring. We fold it across. We check for fit, which is what I'm doing just out of shot. We get our glue. Glue, glue. And we just apply a little bit of glue like that. Wahey! Isn't our head collar beautiful? It's looking so good already. And I'm sure all of you guys are making something stunning where you are. So you should have this sort of like U shape. Those should be vaguely the right size. One of mine is a bit shorter. That's my own fault. I'm doing this at a weird angle. So now what we're going to do is make the headband. So that's the bit that goes over here, and it consists of 2 parts. It consists of a long part with a point at the end and a little buckle strap here to buckle it onto. And that's how you're going to take your head collar off and on. So the first thing we need to do is to measure our headband. So I'm going to see if I can move this camera like up. There we go. Go over there. There. Poor horse is covered in sticky wax. So fold a tab as before. Estimate where your cheek piece would be. Put it over the head. And then all I do is I measure to like the bottom of the chin. So all I did was I was feeling to where this is. And I know that will be at least long enough. I can always trim it. So that is my number one tip, is you can always trim. So don't worry if it's too long. Cut that off. And again, we're going to skive both ends. And that will give you a smooth finish and also make it easier to buckle up. So exactly the same, hold it horizontal, skive it off, make the end look pretty. That wasn't very good, but I'll cut that off in a second. Skive it off. Beautiful. Okay, so imagine this is a horse, and your head collar is facing this way. Found a use for the cutting board. Okay, so this is the front, nose here. So this is the left-hand side. Remember, everything we do up on the right when we have horses. I can't even see that's the right way around. It is the right way around. So just fold it over that top jump ring. And, ooh, gluey's all sticky. I'm just going to take this off because it's in the way and it's annoying me. There we go. See, as I said, this glue does dry quite quickly, but it's so good. I think it's just made by some guy in his like garage as well, which is a bit concerning that there's people just making like solvents, but it's really good leather glue. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to attach anything on because this is what we're going to buckle up with. So what we do is we're going to cut this into like an arrow point or a taper. So we just go across like that and across like that. And as you can see, if the phone focuses, we've got a neat little arrow point to do up. Okay, so we've sort of got a head collar. We need to do the buckle side now. So you're going to have to go to your buckles. You're going to need a 1/8 inch buckle, and it needs to be the same colour as your jump rings. So I've got some nice square ones here. It doesn't matter if you use square or round or oval. And we're just going to use simple square etched slip buckles. So you're going to need to cut these off. Now for a really neat finish, you would normally file these, but I'm just going to cut them today. So you can use like a little needle nose file to get rid of these little horrible edges. So if I put those down, you can see there's like a little edge. You can use like a little file or some sandpaper to get rid of that. So we're going to pop that there. And we're going to get our leather lace and we're going to do some measuring again. So bring her up. So we're going to fold. We're going to place it around where the cheek piece is and we're going to measure to where we want the centre of the buckle. And we're going to fold again and we're going to cut. Put her back. So if we look now, that is quite a short piece, just under 3 centimetres. So again, we're going to skive, and this time you want to skive the whole piece of leather, not just the ends. Obviously, if you want your head collar to sit really tight to your horse, you can skive the whole piece of leather all the time, but I don't think that actually gives the best finish. You might want to do that when working with much smaller scales though. Okay, so we should now have a nice wobbly piece of leather. Wobble, wobble. And we're going to start by attaching it to this jump ring here. So again, imagine this is the front of the horse. We're on the right hand side of the face. Everything does, well, the left, isn't it? Oh, okay, whatever. I'm imagining looking at the horse, but obviously you imagine it from the horse's perspective, which is why it's from the left. I'm confusing everyone, I apologise. Okay, fold it over. Get your glue. Apply your glue. And hold it in place. Ta-da! Beautiful. Okay, we're going to now need to attach our buckle. So, to attach our buckle, we pass the leather lace over the centre bar. So it comes up through this hole, over the centre bar, and down through the other hole. So get your leather lace or your ribbon, pass it up through that first hole. I normally bring it right down here, so all the way down. Fold it and pass it back through that second hole. Pull it tight, and when you glue it, you want to be holding it mega, mega, mega tight, because you want this to be as thin as possible to make it as easy as possible to buckle up. So add your glue. Glue everywhere. This is very hard to do from this angle. Okay, there's more glue on me at the moment than there is anywhere else. Okay, put it back down, hold it tight. And this is why using a glue that you can use your hands with is really easy, because you don't have the tricky bit of sort of putting it there and then grabbing your clamp and then clamping it on. This works really, really well. So if you want to just make sure that that stays really, really tight, you can grab your forceps or your bulldog clip or whatever you're using, and you can just quickly pop it in and do that. Okay, so we've got the basis of our head collar. You can see here we've got a buckle and we've got a headband strap, and we can, if we put this on our horse, we can buckle it up. So we just buckle it up by passing that through, and that's a good way of just checking that everything fits okay. You may want to trim this headband strap at this point, or you might want to leave it until it's finished. So it should kind of look like this. So we've got the whole of the top done. We now need to do the bottom. We're going to do quite a simplistic bottom. There are lots of different ways that you can do the bottom. I'm saying bottom way too much. But we're going to do quite a simple way today. So the first strap we're going to do is like the cheek strap that goes underneath here, or the throat latch. So if you just fold it like this, we take it from where that buckle would sit on this side all the way under to where the buckle would sit on the other side. Again, fold, because you're going to have a tab, and then cut. Pop your horse and your leather lace out of the way. Put your jump rings out the way, because we don't need them in shot. Okay, and then exactly the same as before, we're going to skive both ends. So can you see when I skive, I don't just use my right hand, I'm using my left as well. So I'm using my middle finger to sort of push that blade along. I think that's the best way to do it. So this is going to go underneath. So you need to make sure the shiny side of leather is facing outwards. So imagine it's under your horse like this. Get your head collar, pop it through your jump ring as if it was at the bottom. Bend over and glue your tab. And hold in place, or use a clamp if you're using super glue. That is going to be my phrase of the day. I think that should be my catchphrase. Use a clamp if you're using super glue. Okay, and then all we're going to do is pass this over as if it was the chin. I'm just going to undo it because I think it's a bit easier if it's not done up and it's in the way. Move that out the way. Want everything out the way. And exactly the same. So pass through and down. You want shiny side out. You can always check for fit at this point as well. I always think that the throat latch can always be a bit loose if you need it to be. It doesn't really matter too much. You don't want it too loose, obviously. You don't want a horse getting a hoof through it. You know what these model horses are like. And hold it in place. Okay, so look, we have an underside. We now need to do the underside of our noseband. Now you can do this in 2 pieces or you can do it in 1. We're going to do it in 1 piece today. The tutorial on the website that I have linked to, and the link will come up just before 12, actually does it in 2 pieces. It's entirely up to you how you do it. So you get your horse and we're going to measure from where that jump ring would sit all the way under to here. Now you can also add a buckle in here. If you're doing it with a buckle, I recommend using 332 inch leather lace and buckle. So you can always trim 1/8 inch leather lace down so it's thinner, or you can use 332, actually buy 332. So we're going to skive our leather lace off again so it's nice and thin. So you should have one single piece that it will be approximately the same size as the top. So if it's not the same size, then you've either got a very weird looking horse or you've made a mistake somewhere. So you should have just over 5 centimeters. Okay, so imagine we've got a horse. This is the top. We've already got one bottom piece. This is normally where you make mistakes and where you stick stuff on the wrong way around. I do that all the time. Don't worry. Just take it off and redo it. Most glues will set reasonably well, but they won't set hard for a while. So that's what this glue does. And that means that you can adjust stuff if you need to. So we should have something vaguely looking like this. And we're going to make sure we've got no stringy bits of glue. Okay, I would now make sure that this does fit, because it's really important your noseband fits. If your noseband doesn't fit, it won't go on the horse. So I'd say actually the top half of our noseband is maybe a little bit too short, but I think that's a good measurement for the bottom half. So it's probably just going to be a little bit too far up, but that happens. We're not striving for perfection, we're just striving for doing. Okay, so you've fed it back through, and you folded it, and you should have a little nosy bit. As I said, you can put a buckle on here, use straps to add a buckle. That will make it adjustable. So that's quite good if you want to move the tack between different horses. And it also looks more realistic. Most tack will have a buckle there. I've taken off most of my nail varnish doing this. Okay, so we hold it in place. We're nearly done, guys. How exciting is this? So you should now have most of your head collar. We could actually, at this point, quite happily pop it on our horse and do it up. It would look quite snazzy. Look how snazzy she looks. She's so happy. She looks so snazzy. But we do need one more strap. And we need this strap that goes along here. Oh, Emma has asked a question. When using ribbon, do you find it's worth using a lighter on the ends to stop fraying? I don't recommend setting fire to ribbon with fire. What I do recommend is buying anti-fray glue. And I don't know if I've actually got any to hand. I do have some. So if you look up online at a craft store, like ribbon fray or fray stop or fray edge or ribbon edge, you can get special stuff that you put along the sides and that will stop it fraying. The other thing you can do is you can actually just put a little bit of fabric glue. I would definitely, if you're using ribbon, put some fabric glue on this little taper here once you've cut it, and that will stop it completely from fraying. So any edge that you've got exposed, definitely do that, and that will just stop this sort of fraying that you get. Also, if you're using really good quality ribbon, it won't fray as badly as cheap ribbon. Most ribbon is cheap anyway, but I don't know what expensive ribbon actually costs. But that stuff doesn't fray very much. It's quite nice ribbon, that one. So we're going to add this strap underneath, which I think is called a check strap, maybe? I don't know. I don't actually know what this particular strap is called. So you need to measure from here to here. Now you're going to need a little bit more leather lace than with those tabs, because what it does is it's going to fold around your 3mm. So there needs to be space enough there for your 3mm. So although it's shorter, you're going to want just a little bit more like that, because you're going to be trying to fold it across some leather lace. Now you may want to add a jump ring at the bottom here, so you may want to attach it to a jump ring. We're not doing that today. So what I've got here is, as you can see, actually quite a long piece, even though it's quite a short distance, but it's not going to be that long when I finish. And I nearly skived it completely off there. I don't recommend that. So again, we're going to skive both ends, and we're going to start with this side. So imagine this is your horse, this is your head collar on your horse. You want the shiny side out, so it needs to go like that. So we're going to attach it, first of all, to here. And we want a little bit of looseness. We want this to be able to move. So don't glue this here. Don't glue it down tight. We're just going to add a little bit of glue just on this bit here, because we want this to be able to move. So once you've glued, just check that you've got a bit of movement. I have. I'm holding it quite tight, but you can move it. We don't want it to be too loose, but we want it to be loose enough that we can move it. Okay, now this should be about the same length as your cheek pieces. So we're going to pull in that throat lash, and then we're going to fold it over, and we've got that tab there. So we can just hold it up against our horse and say, are we happy with that length? And exactly the same, you need this bit to move, so don't go gluing it actually onto the throat lash. You want the flexibility for it to move around. So put the little bit of glue on the end. That's why slightly longer tabs here also help. And we're nearly done, guys. We've done the main body of our head collar. So what we have now is a perfectly functioning head collar for a model horse. However, model horses must be held onto at all times. And as it stands, we've got nowhere to attach our lead rope. So that is what we're going to do now. So we're not going to need any more glue. So if you've got open glue, what I recommend now is just finding your lid and popping it on, just to make sure it doesn't dry out. We're going to need our needle nose pliers, and we're going to need a 5mm jump ring. So I use a slightly smaller jump ring for this, but you can use a bigger one. I just think a smaller one looks better. So jump rings are split. You can buy solid ones, but most come split. Can you see that there is like a little divide? So, see the little divide? I'm going to hold it with our pliers in one hand, and then just using our nail or another pair of pliers, we're just going to bend it so that it's open. Now what we're going to do is we're going to attach it in here. So taking your open end and using your pliers, we're just going to feed it through the leather lace, and we're not going to drop it. And there you go. You've got it fed completely through. So now just use your pliers to close that ring up, and you could just twist it round now so that you've got the ring there. And that is where you're going to attach your lead rope if you've made your horse a lead rope. So we've now made our head collar, hopefully. I'm hoping everyone has made a head collar. So all we now need to do now is to put it onto our model horse. So you just slip the noseband on. You get this part here, the head strap, and you just feed it through the top of your buckle. Push it nice and tight. And then you can, I can't do it from that angle, feed it through the bottom of your buckle, which normally I do in my lap. And what this is proving is that you need to be able to do stuff from different angles. Okay, now I would argue that this is massively too long, but that's okay. So if you're making tack to sell in particular, you might want to make stuff a little bit too long that's adjustable, because then people can trim it and cut it to their own requirements. If you get a head collar, which is really, really long, just trim it yourself. Whoops, there we go. Nice and tight. So I might trim that off when I'm done, because that is ridiculous. So I'll need to re-scythe this, but as for now, you can see that that is a much better length. So I'll just trim that like that for now, and I'll re-scythe it. But this is our basic head collar. There are some bits that need tidying up and odd bits, you know, here and there that might not be perfect, but that doesn't matter, because we've made a head collar, guys. We've done it. We've all done it together, and I hope you guys have also done it. So what I'm now going to say is, do you have any questions? I'm going to open the floor for any questions. Emma has already asked about ribbon and fraying. But if anyone else has any other questions they'd like to ask, you can ask them now. And I'm going to drink some more tea because my throat hurts. Lynn has asked, what is the name of the leather glue you're using and where did you get it? So the name is leather glue. I got it off eBay. Literally put leather glue into eBay and it will come up. It says extra strong, suitable for all types of leather. It literally, this is what it comes in with this sort of homemade label. It's brilliant. It's honestly brilliant. If you just search leather glue, the photograph shows it in this packet like this. I really, really recommend it. Any tips if you do glue your fingers together asking for a friend? Okay, so I think what we can conclude is that Emma has successfully glued her fingers together. I think Googling how to unglue them is going to be more useful, but the best thing is normally hot water. So if you just sort of soak it in hot water, that helps to unglue your fingers. I did once infamously glue my lip to my tongue using super glue. Do not recommend doing that. Please don't do that. It's really stupid. So yeah, just soak it in hot water and maybe Google it. Okay, Anita asks about brow bands. So if you're making a bridle, your brow band is simply one piece that goes across like this and has tabs on either side. To make patterned brow bands, there are lots of different ways you can do that. Now you can use ribbon. So you can use ribbon and you basically fold it around, 2 different colours of ribbon, fold it around, and that will give you a ribbon brow band. A technique that I've started using that I'm absolutely loving is using this stuff called washi tape. Now I use washi tape because I do a lot of journaling, but this tape here can be used really, really effectively to give you like a really fancy finish. So what you do is you put it on your leather lace before you make your brow band. So what I'll do is I'll put some on here on the cheek pieces to just show you how simple this is. So do it before you've put it together, but because we haven't got a piece of leather we've got together, so you just find the end, which is sometimes the hardest bit, measure out like an approximation, and we are going to do an entire video on making your tack sparkly. So if you want to tune in for that, we'll talk in more detail about this. But basically, you just stick it on the leather, simple as that. And this is why you do it beforehand, because I've now got to trim it. But you can see that it sticks really fine, absolutely fine. No one is doing anything too aggressive with tack, so don't worry if stuff isn't stuck, like, so that it can never fall off. I don't know who these people are that are doing aggressive things. The tack you're making is for showing a display. None of you are going to be massively playing with it. So just trim it. Obviously, if you do it before you attach it, it's a lot easier. Like that. And then, without cutting your head collar to pieces, you just trim across like that, so that it's neat. This is why I said you do it beforehand. And, oh gosh, this is really hard to do once it's all put together. Yeah, so that will give you, that's not massively neat, but that will give you like a really sparkly finish. So that is a really simple way of doing a decorated headband. Washi tape comes in thousands of colours and patterns. So I'm just going to show you one of my boxes of washi tape. So obviously you can get metallic ones. These would look really cool on brow bands. You could have like a green one or a blue one, or you could cut some of these ones like into pieces, and those would look really awesome. So that is one way of doing it. The other way, you can actually print on paper your pattern and you can glue that on. Thanks for all of the amazing tips everyone's now giving about how not to glue yourself together and to how to unstick your fingers. I'm glad we've all learned something today, which is don't stick your fingers together. I'm going to need to do another bit of green now on this head collar, or it's going to look really weird. It's very nice. It's really pretty. I want to do it like a different colour on the other side, just so it looks odd. But that's how I've been doing those ones that I've been posting online. So, do we have any more questions before we say goodbye? Okay, so I don't think we've got any more questions. We know that Lynn has melted her t-shirt, which is slightly odd. Our next seminar is going to be a bit different. It's going to show you how to put together a cataloguing spreadsheet. Emma says, no fire, don't touch glue. Yeah, Emma, no fire, don't touch glue. If you take nothing away from today, it's don't touch glue and don't set fire to things. Brilliant advice. Our next seminar is going to be on cataloguing. It's going to be a screen share, so you can make an Excel document alongside it at the same time, or if you're, you know, if you don't want to make it, or you just want to improve your cataloguing, we're basically going to make my epic model horse spreadsheet that I know is really, really legendary and you guys love. So we're going to put it together, but there's also going to be a free download after. So check that out. It's going to be next Friday and it's going to be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So 1 o'clock British Standard Time. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will pin it to the top of the page. I am working on trying to get these to embed in the website so we can have all of them on. It's proving a little tricky at the moment. If you have any questions, head on to the discussion thread that you will find on the Chestnut Ridge page. And if you've actually made a head collar, please post a picture of it on the discussion thread. I would absolutely love to see what everyone has made today. So thank you all for tuning in. It is goodbye from my victim. Goodbye, please save me, help me. And it is goodbye from me.